This is the Decarbonization Disruptors podcast. I am your host, Matthew Cohen. This is episode 4 of our podcast, and I am very pleased to welcome Bharat Vats. Vats is the president and CEO of Atom Power. Founded in 2014, Atom Power set out to create a new standard for the electrified world by creating a transformational solution to protect, monitor, and control electrical systems. Their vision and ingenuity, along with a growing team of world-class engineers and leaders, resulted in the Atom Switch, the first UL-certified digital solid-state circuit breaker. Vats, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. I know you and I haven't connected before, so the fact that you've taken the time to do this is really appreciated. So I definitely wanted to get into Atom Power and the Atom Switch and kind of go through that technology. But first, I want to learn more about you because your career is very interesting, seeing that you've been in a multitude of industries, sensing, your time at Park, industrial IoT, and now where you are today. What I'm curious about is, throughout your career, how have you evaluated where you take your journey, and what steps do you take to understand if a technology or sector is at a stage where you're able to add value?
Sure. This is the question that I got to answer, skim all the 23 years of my career, right? Started as an engineer, double E by training and an MBA grad. It wasn't easy. Never thought of to be a CEO on day one, right? The day one was all about how do I become one of those finest double E engineers, control instrumentations, all about automations, PLCs, DCS, SCADA systems. It's all about that, right? Whether it's an application or it's a complete 500 megawatt of power plant, right? That's how it's all started. But later on, as we all grow in our career, right? Business is not just engineering. Business is beyond engineering as well, which is deliveries, supply chain, operations, manufacturing, finance, legal, HR. And I've been really fortunate. I've been coached and mentored by one of those AAA guys in the world who guided my career towards on a path where I'm a CEO today, right? That started with, let's see, grab as much as product information as I could, right? Basically, the initial years, 20 years plus years ago, what we call it IoT right now, the journey from Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, which is condition-based monitoring system, and goes to IoT. So, I mean, in a summary, 23 years spent in the industry where I'm trying to be a thought leader for an IoT and AI guy, basically. Have been across various, I've switched the tables, both sides. Have been a user as well. I've been a technology provider as well. And so I can feel the pain, what the user needs it. That helps me right now as a CEO to have product that meets the expectation, that meets the needs of our customers and help them remove their pains, right? So that user experience from last 23 years, that user experience from the user side, from the process side, from production sides helps me a lot thinking ahead. All right, what kind of functionalities, features, or technological advantage this solution should have it, right? So that's that. And then to your point, the last part in your question, Matt, that you asked, sorry, Matthew, the last question that you asked was, how does this help in my current role, right? I got to tell you this, Atom Power it's not an EVSE company, it's a technology company. We're the first one who got listed as solid state circuit breaker for UL approval and got it approved as well, right? And then right now we are Gen 6 of our Atom Switch, which you mentioned earlier, which is our circuit breaker, right? So the way I see Atom Power is it's a technology company that provides a universal platform in the shape and form of a solid state circuit breaker, where EVSE is one of the applications. And then you talk about other industrial applications, motor control, soft starters, data centers, and the list goes on and on and on. But yes, EVSE was the first application that we built and matured our product on that. So people know us from the EVSE standpoint, but my marketing team and the entire company right now work in establishing the right brand image in the market, what Atom Power is.
Very cool. And going off of that, I saw a recent post, I think it was on LinkedIn, that you sent, was about kind of your transition from a double E to the C-suite. And what I was curious to find out was what made you decide, and what was the deciding factor really in you transitioning from an engineering position into a leadership role. I mean, I'm a recruiter. I get asked all the time, find me a double E who can have some business knowledge, right? So what made you decide to make that switch in your career and go over to the leadership side?
I think this is a process, right? And I gradually prepared myself for this. This is not a one-day job. The decision wasn't I decided yesterday. I think I prepared myself in the sense you've seen one side how it works, how the solution worked, but then the business as a whole, as a problem, right, is everything together. You got to see different department, different aspects, and the role that the leadership, this role, we call it the loneliest role in a company CEO, right, is the role that sees the macros in the world and sees the micros and try to find a solution that's gonna fit both the world, right? That's how I see that, and that's actually a learning process of decades, right, or more than that, when you can see that yes, I can probably, I wouldn't say I can predict this, how this is going to move forward and what kind of solutions are required to solve this problem. And how do I make this problem beneficial from the ESG standpoint, right? It's just not the business or just not the CEO is not just for the board. CEO is for the community. CEO is for the environment. CEO is for the growth. CEO is for the governance, right? Um, so this again going back to your original question, it's a long journey learning all those tricks of the trades, how to be successful and perform all these parameters there.
Very cool. And now that you're at Atom Power, I definitely wanted to get into the technology and what Atom Power is doing today, specifically the Atom Switch. I mean, you mentioned in previously some of the applications, so I want to talk about that. But what made Atom Power in its infancy really go into the EV charging market to begin with, and then how is that going to leverage the Atom Switch technology and the circuit breaker to transition to other industries? Where do you see it going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I'll start with a value prop thing, right? Atom Power's EVSC solution certainly brings a value proposition that I don't see anybody else right now in this EVSC market for L2 chargers. Let me specify that. Those are based on AC current, right? The alternating current has a clear value prop with our so-called Atom switch, which is basically a circuit breakers at various current levels. So our revolutionary solid state circuit breaker aligns with the company's vision and the purpose, which is, hey, I need to connect the energy first, right? These are the energy points. I mean, my favorite line I say to everybody wherever I meet, majority of the power on this planet, 85% plus, right? I mean, if you want to pick a number, goes through some circuit breaker, right? So if I can connect that power, right, I think I can, the next step which I can do is I can control this. So Atom Power's purpose vision is not just to connect the power, but also manage the connected energy, right? Going flowing through these circuit breakers. And it comes if we have a solution, let's say EVSE, which is powered by our switch, that makes way more easier for us to do the decentralized control, right? We can control all those EVSEs ports installed through our Atom Cloud, we call it. But at the same time, those can be governed locally as well if without a cloud platform, like an on-prem solution. So today, I think our technology is, if I try to summarize in one line, is the making EV charging more reliable, scalable, and affordable. Right. That's our. And for tomorrow, if you ask me, if this becomes it'll go towards more critical application, which I just mentioned a while ago, primarily towards in the industrial space, right, which is reefers, heat traces, data centers, motors, you can name it, right? And even in data center world, you got a bunch of stuff going on, bus plugways, you going on your RPPs, your PDU stuff. This our solution helps a lot to from the load distribution management standpoint, from the local distribution control standpoint, from the overall power control standpoint. This is the perfect product for that. And in our conversation with various stakeholders for respective areas that you mentioned, I think there's a solid interest being built up right now for our product.
Great. And one of the other posts that I saw related to that, I think was very recently, you posted about sort of the myths about EV charging. And there were two additional ones that I wanted to ask you about that are related to what you just mentioned. The first being really power distribution. So one of the things that I see out there is, the question is, how do we solve the issue of getting EV charging at scale, at the level that we'd like it to see, with a power grid that at present isn't really designed to manage it, right? I mean, obviously, I would love to hear how Atom Power is helping in that effort, but just generally speaking, how do you see us solving that problem in the near term as we scale up, and more people become, EV owners?
Sure. I think it's all about more charging infrastructure I talked to you about earlier, right? Which means the more you can do it when you're going to the last point, right? Right behind the meter. This is the term in utility, right? For example, multifamily homes or the garages, right? Those are the last point where you reach on the network, right? The electrical network. So more charging infrastructure is needed in multifamily homes, right? And this can be done by on a reasonable pricing, not just us as a market itself, right? When you have more install base, your economies of scales come into the play, and you can provide more affordable and competitive solutions to the customer, right? So that's number one. And the number two is obviously adding more towards the workplace charging, right? And I want to highlight here, right? How do you do that? So the most important thing with this is when you talk workplace charging is you got to meter that, right? Generally, this is the requirement in a couple states in the United States as well, right? The charging ports does not have the metering capability. We do the metering capability, which means, all right, for example, you're throwing the subsidy to your employees, right? If you use an EV car, right, you charge it, the company's going to reimburse you. But for that, you need to know the right usage, right? How many kilowatt hours was consumed by. So I think that's that. And the two is it's about the giving availability for everyone. Like we've got 14 ports right outside our office, right, that we open for the public as well. Just giving those availability in terms of giving an RFID, having your payment channel connection. So anybody wants to use that, they can use it any 24/7 stuff, right? And last but not the least, I think the scale matters. It's a play with the utility right at the edge of the grid and the customer. Right now, the challenge the utilities are facing, they cannot differentiate between the EV load and HVAC load, right? So then they need an EV charger that can differentiate that's where the value prop Atom Power brings, right? We can do the right metering, let the utility knows, okay, this is how much of the total kilowatt hours went to charging a car, and that's much went for your HVAC load, right? So that all those the government program benefits can be passed on if you're using an EV vehicle, right? And at the same time, it also helps the utility to flatten their peak demand curve, right? They can say that, all right, I'm going to give you affordable power during the day if you charge your cars, right? And that way, your peak demand from 5 to 7 and 9 to 5, right? Those will be flattened more easily. So those from that standpoint, it needs a lot more infrastructure to be installed.
And that was going to be my second question to you. Is one of the other myths that I see is, how do we solve the challenge of charging availability in people who don't live in single family homes? I mean, you touched on it a little bit. We know just based on recent government data that the majority of EV owners today charge from home, right? And the majority of people in this country live in single family homes themselves. So because the behavior is to charge at home, how do we get more people to take on the EV market that don't live in those environments, that may not have the availability today to charge from workplace or a neutral site?
I think it's all about creating an ecosystem, right? I still believe industry needs a larger ecosystem. If you take one player out of this, and you know whom I'm talking about from this EVSC, I think everybody's pretty much fragmented, right? If you ask me, how do we make availability for everyone without having a multi-resident chargers or in the garage? I think we got to create an ecosystem. We got to create a platform where everybody's collaborating or connected to each other, right? It's just not a particular EVS CPO charge point provider or B or C. It's a consortium, right? It's something like gas stations nowadays. We can go anywhere, pull the car, plug that in, and get the gas, right? But if you see the supply chain in a gas station, we got to find exactly similar ecosystem that helps us. All right, here's the install base of 10,000 ports from this CPO, 5,000 from this CPO, 15 from this. But to a consumer or a customer, both ways, right? Electricity is consumed. To a consumer or a customer, this is the same platform. On the back end, those collaboration needs to happen. I think once that is achieved, I'm quite confident this problem of non-availability of garage chargers will go away.
Do you think, and going off of that, do you think it's more about setting a universal standard for charging stations, kind of like what Tesla's doing with some of their partnerships with large automakers? Do you think it's more about creating a standard for just charging infrastructure available in certain markets? Where do you see kind of I don't know if there's a silver bullet necessarily, but kind of the most common, most affordable way to make it universal for everybody?
I think it's a multi-pronged approach, Matthew. Yes, the more you have in your garage, it's going to be super helpful, right? Because there's also you've got single-family homes, got solars and other renewable stuff, right? Where you can draw the power from the top and feed into your car, right? That's or have a battery, right, that stores that, transfer back to the car. So that's the advantage that you can take there. The B is you need to collaborate, right, to give a platform to everybody so that they can go and charge the cars outside as well. And the C is, I think it's both not just the EV manufacturers, but it's also from the charge point operators. They need to form an ecosystem, right? More than that, and make it. And the third and last thing is, to your point, some of the hardware challenges like NACS, we call it NACS connectors, right? So this which becomes very universal. I got either Tesla car or I got Mercedes or BMW. I don't need to carry those adapters or the charging station. They are not compatible with my car, right? That will go away pretty soon, hopefully by the end of this year. Then anybody can pull over anywhere and charge their car.
Yeah, and I appreciate the insight, not only for our audience, but for me. My next car, I'm hoping, is going to be an EV. I got my eye on the Kia EV9. I have a Kia now, so I'm hoping that this next year. So I'm always looking for insight in how I'm going to approach this. Right? Do I do it in my garage? Do I try to find a charge port? I think a lot of people who are aspiring EV owners want to know a lot of this stuff.
Sure.
You talked also a little bit about the data-driven approach to power distribution and how to manage utility. Talk about how you're using that data-driven approach a little bit more, but also kind of where AI is going in this effort. How are you utilizing it? How will you utilize in the future? And where is the industry going, especially with EV charging, when it comes to having an AI approach to be more predictive on what we see in the EV market?
Thank you for asking. I think this is where the real game starts, right? Because installing an infrastructure is the one thing, but then the real benefits will be harvested when you have an AI play coming in, which means, let's talk about this. Can I use these EV chargers for predictive maintenance, right? Can I do diagnostics, prognostic, anomaly detection? Because you still have the current data and the power data coming in, right? And those current signatures can tell you a lot about the system, right? Or about the equipment that connected to those, right? That's one. Can I create a solution which is going to connect vehicle to the grid, right? Because those guys are going to save the power, right? If the grid needs power, can B2G solution help the grid to keep the grid stable, right? Can we integrate our vehicles with the renewable energy sources? Okay, there's a solar, rooftop solar, right? Can I draw directly power from there and charge the car without loading the grid, right? So all these are the AI piece that's coming in. And then obviously the two biggest benefit I see with the AI is, one of them is the safety monitoring, right? The more the data you have, the more the label data you have, you can always define these are the safety, the benchmarks, how I'm going to measure that. And last but not the least, which is again the biggest concern for all the utilities, you've got the SCADA systems there. They always make sure they're not they're not vulnerable to the external world where people start attacking those. So I think cybersecurity is the most important concern as well. And I'm happy to share that Atom Cloud Solution, we are FedRAMP approved, authorized, listed on the FedRAMP, one of the 3 providers, which means we have the highest level of cybersecurity through our Atom Cloud software where these EV charging happens, right? So utilities pulling the information analysis or connecting or providing power using our software will be absolutely secured there, right? And so these are the AI benefits that both the customer and the utilities and the EV manufacturer per se, right, can get it. And last but not the least, Matthew, I'm sure you might be thinking, what it helps us to our customers, whether it's a multifamily home or it's a fleet customer. Let me talk about it. You must have heard about it. We are one of the preferred by Frito-Lay's, right? Or the
Very
LLI.
cool.
And the reason is we help those businesses achieving their net carbon zero goals and visions, right? By helping them, making sure the highest uptime. The highest uptime is less energy losses, right? Less energy losses means you're still saving carbon footprints there, right? Or if the cloud goes down, you can still work things at local level. Or if some repairs needs to be done, they can be done in the fastest time possible, right? Or how am I helping them to replace the gas vehicles with EV charging by EV? So we're helping a lot, and that's one of the reasons we are most preferred by those businesses as well. That hey, they're going to contribute towards our efforts towards the net carbon zero.
And I wanted to ask you kind of a larger question. We're kind of in a heightened political environment, so I'm not going to ask you too much about how we can get the government or to adopt more of an EV revolution. But I'm more curious about how you feel about the consumer and also the business world really signing on in the U.S. at scale. I mean, I think we're on our way, but I think we have quite a bit to go as opposed to other markets in the world when it comes to really adopting an EV revolution. What can we do to get to push back against the headwinds that consumers and businesses are feeling, so we can really start to push this at scale? Is it affordability? Is it a technology? Is it simply data? What is there a magic bullet, or is there a multitude of things that we can do to really start to move this forward so we can get to where we want to be?
Well, in my view, Matthew, everything starts with one common word called education. I think we need to educate everybody in this industry, right? Whether it's consumer or businesses, the benefits of EV, right? Benefits of EV vehicle. Just not only the carbon footprint, it's all about the efficiency as well, the safety. The It's like a computer on the wheels. That's what you're driving, basically, right? So, how do you get the most of the benefit? There is a segment of society that is still do not know. They need a charging station where they go and tap their card. They can't even tap, they just swipe the card. I think all those payment channels, access controls, they still need to be developed in this EV charger. Those are far away, right? And then once you develop, you got to educate as well the customer how user friendly these solutions are, right? Good. Think about my mom is going, she will always prefer, hey, son, I'm going to go and get the gas station, swipe the card, or go inside the gas station, fill my car, $20, right? I'm done, right? And I've seen from her as well, right? It's tough for her charging an EV car, right? So I think that's part A. The part B is the businesses. There's a lot more for the businesses in this, right? Which means from the employee standpoint, from the overall ESG benefit standpoint, supporting because the biggest power consumers in our society is the businesses, right? Not the houses. Right? So those people can take advantage of powering up these vehicles during the daytime and helping the grid to lesser their demand when the employees goes back home. They don't need to charge the car, right? So that in those hours the power can be used for the HVAC purposes, not for EVSC purposes. So and eventually keeping our grid safe as well. So it's beneficial from both segments.
Yeah, I think people hear us, and I think it's just about keeping that message going until we get to a place we want to be. So no, I definitely appreciate that. So no, this has been great. I really appreciate taking the time to do this. It's been super insightful. In closing, anything you want to add about what's going on with that Empower today, what's upcoming, our audience, that we should get excited about?
Oh, absolutely. I think let me see how much I can. Adam Power right now is going through a transformation journey, which the transformation is across all those. How do we transform our brand image, right? That we are not an EVSC company, we are a technology company. We're a company that makes solid state circuit breakers where we deploy this. That's one. Two is in terms of our business as well. We started with fleet. Now we're going towards multi-resi. We're going towards workplace charging. We're going towards school buses. We're going towards munis, USPS, co-ops. You talk about it, right? So that's that, the towns and the cities of a state. And the third is also we're coming up we're working on next gen technologies, right? The next gen circuit breakers. Those are gonna be probably one third, one fourth, one fifth of the size of the current circuit breaker, which Atom Power has it, with a lot more functionalities, a lot more controllability, a lot more reliability, and a lot more, how would I say that, AI piece. Let me bit my tongue here. How much of the AI piece can be done at the circuit breaker, right? You don't need a server or a program, right? So Atom Power is in much advanced stages developing those solutions, and you're going to hear from me pretty soon, making some press release, some announcement that those solutions will be available for the public. Some of them by the end of this year, some of them by next year.
Great. Well, we'll look out for that. So that's no, I definitely appreciate taking the time to speak with us today. Our audience certainly appreciated it, and we want to keep in touch with you for all the great things that are coming up with Atom Power. So again, thank you again, and this is the Decarbonization Disruptors podcast, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for inviting.